Welcome to Xbox Corner, my name is Alex. Today we're taking a look at Somerville on the Xbox Series X. It's the latest title from one of the original creators of both Limbo and Inside, and yes, for that reason, expectations have been high with this one, but can it deliver anything near their masterful quality? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, Game Pass breakdowns and graphical comparisons weekly, and let's get started. If you are thinking about playing this then and you want the credit, consider using cornershop.gg for discounted digital credit or your Game Pass membership. You'll get 10% off at checkout using code CORNER, and that's going to be instant delivery via email. Also, of course, the channel gets a small kickback. Story then, and Somerville, it's unique. We start the game much like many of us would any other night of the week, in front of the TV, and in this case we're asleep with our dog at our feet and our wife and child at our side. It's definitely a somber start, establishing this is nothing more than a typical family. Well, that is at least until the world begins to shake, and what appears to be, I guess, an earthquake is in fact an alien invasion. So on running outside, investigating the disturbance, we head to the basement to hide out. We see this is some sort of alien life form, but before we know it, we are knocked out. Our wife thinks we are dead, and the next thing you know, you're waking up alone. The destruction is real around you, and we're setting out on this adventure to get back to our loved ones. It's a wordless story, this one, and for many that will have it leaning heavily into the artistic realm of gaming, something I'm personally a fan of, but it's definitely an acquired taste. Consider this though a slow burn where the aliens are kind of the background, but the narrative it's squarely focused on the character study, and yeah, overall I liked it, even if towards the end it seems to get a little convoluted and lost in its resolution. Gameplay then, and it's relatively simplistic. One element I did not add in the story is the fact on awakening we've actually gained some, let's say, special abilities, and that is we can manipulate light. It's a small glow from our arm that will be extremely useful, and it actually makes up the majority of the gameplay on offer. I'm also going to be very careful with the footage today to avoid any spoilers. The controls are so simple, we can move and we can interact, that's really the big majority of them. Now this interaction, it could be a button press or maybe holding onto a handle or an item. In this case it's going for basically immersion. That idea is you need to control the arm itself, so let's say you grab the handle, you're going to be pulling that left stick towards you to pull the door open. It can definitely be finicky at times, and I could take it or leave it as a mechanic, but I definitely understand the inclusion. We want to feel what this character does. Outside of that then, there's some, let's say, alien biological waste of some sort around the world, a liquid, though it's square and it moves unlike anything that would be from this planet. Now this actually makes up much of the gameplay, and it can often block your way or even uncover secrets. So to remove this, we'll actually be using that light source. We can't just pull a trigger though and away it goes. We'll need to find some sort of transmitter. Cue there basically lots of hunting, think flares, bulbs, power generators that we can overcharge. We will use this same mechanic then to power open and close doors. It's simple, but it works well, and later in the game you get the reverse effect too, which is rather than make it disappear, we can actually freeze it in place, creating things like walkways or even, items that we can climb. The only other element to gameplay then really, there's a chase sequence and stealth sequences. I mostly enjoyed these. The alien life form, they get more and more threatening with progress, and if caught in their, let's say, tractor beam, it's gonna be game over. Fortunately though, I will say it has an aggressive autosave. With this though, basically sometimes you're going to be sprinting away with your enemy clearly hunting you down right behind you. In other moments you'll be sneaking from shadow to shadow. Problems, it has a few. It's a cinematic experience. It's easy to mention Limbo and Inside here given the relation, but this, it takes influences from games such as Another World as well, although again, granted, this here, it's presented in 3D, which I did not expect. Because of this 3D angle though, it brings all of the usual problems like a sometimes awkward camera, and also the depth of the image. I found it can make identifying the next pathway just a little awkward. You may even get stuck on small areas in the landscape as well, causing you to change your path. The controls are fine as well, but I would have much preferred the sprint mechanics I controlled. Too often I found we were going at a snail's pace, and that very much removed the control that I typically like to see. Also, that kind of slow walk, it felt like it was very much against the characters', urgency that they were facing. Finally, some of the puzzles, they can be a little obscure for their own good, and yeah, all in I actually spent about 4.5 hours with the game, but a good hour was me simply stuck on a couple of puzzles that offered little in the way of clues. One last complaint as well, actually. Why I can't stroke my dog is beyond me. This trooper is facing thick and thin with me, and not even a pat on the head. It's just rude. It would have added such a nice tiny bit of personality for this character in my opinion. Dogs are family too, and it seems to forget that, and I'm definitely a dog person if that's not obvious. Overall, gameplay wise though, look, it's mostly what I expected, a puzzle game, though this time it's sacrificing much of the platforming we've seen in previous work from this dev in favour of the 3D exploration, and that definitely has both its positives and its negatives. That said though, look, I was impressed, but I do expect this will absolutely split the audience, because the end of the world, that is just the backdrop, and often the obstacles we do face, they'll probably seem tiny when you're looking at them on a screen, but in this scenario, family missing, end of the world, all sorts going on, I imagine they really would be incredibly challenging. Graphically then, I really like it. It's going for a low poly look, but some of the environments are stunning, from caves and houses to large vistas that reveal the ruins of clearly what was once a major city. This contrasts then perfectly to the alien life form and the equipment, which is almost this dark and metallic look. It also moves in this unnatural way. This is particularly true of the moving floor as well, so to speak, the moving floor, some sort of, like I said, waste. And I really like the lighting in this game. That really is something special. It's absolutely stylized though, basically, and there were more than a few wow moments in fact in here. Problems visually, I had a couple of glitches. There was one moment a few characters, they disappeared for a split second during a pretty heavy hitting cutscene, and then there's plenty of clipping with the environment. Also, as nice as the cinematic approach is, there's a couple of moments with just honestly awful camera angles that give you little clue to what or where you should be going next. Audio finally, it's stunning. Being a wordless tale, we are left with, from a focal front, grunts and whimpers as we overcome the many challenges the world has, and it really does a good job of just telling you everything about this character's current situation. Then the world and the aliens, they have a suitable sound field to make it feel, I guess, threatening. I wish the world had a little bit more, but yeah, it's all made up for though with the soundtrack. It fills in the rest of the sound field, it is stunning, it's mostly piano-esque, but yeah, it just supports what is happening on screen, whether it's the threat of alien life forms or that kind of, I guess, sense of hope. It just reinforces and provides a background of, often somehow, even in the most dire situations, this sense of optimism, and it elevates the emotional bullet points as we progress through the story. So the final verdict in Somerville, it impresses, but it has its shortcomings too. It was always destined for a tough time as well, simply down to the fact the developers, they have a connection to Limbo and Inside, so many are coming in here with these huge expectations. Two masterpiece puzzle platformers, it's a pretty hard task to live up to. Honestly though, look, this does not reach their heights, but it's still a good piece of work that took a few risks, and sometimes they pay off, others not so much. For me though, it's a good 7 out of 10. Its story may lose its way a bit towards the end game, and the 3D world, it has a fair few issues, but I couldn't help but be driven by the curiosity of simply what will happen next, and can we reunite this family? And that is the video down. Will you be checking this one out? Will you be adding it to the library? Let us know in the comments down below. With that then, like, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.